moving on to something I've already talked about, which I've seen all over the internet just now popping up again. And I'm like, what the fuck? I already talked about this quite a ways back. Where they're talking about doing a spin-off from, you know, that Star Trek Discovery. Ugh. Fucking stupid ass show. Anyways, they're doing a spin-off of the Christopher Pike character, you know, Captain Pike. You know, it's basically Star Trek Pike, but they're calling it Strange New Worlds. And that fucking retarded Ethan guy's playing Spock is going to be doing Spock again. You know, I can't stand that dude. He's the worst Spock. Worst Spock. Terrible. But anyway, the reason why they're doing this spin-off is because nobody likes STD. They've gotten so much flack over STD. And then it just got 10 times worse when they did Star Trek Picard. Absolutely no one likes Picard. So again, they've gotten a ton of flack over these shows. So let's cash in on another cow. Everybody knows who Christopher Pike is. Let's do that. Oh, and just as an incentive, let's put a rumor out there that we're going to bring back Captain Kirk. They're trying to bait people into watching these shows because of nostalgia purposes. Anyways, that's why they're doing this spin-off of Christopher Pike. But the problem is it's still ran by the fucking Alex Kurtzman. Ugh. Nobody likes Kurtzman at all. This guy is like Kathleen Kennedy. You know, he fucking has ridden on the coattails of great people, and then they give him a little creative control and he destroys everything. You know, he's a Sith Lord. Ugh. Kurtzman. God. Until they get rid of this jackass of a moron, they're never going to have a decent show. It's not going to work. This guy loses them money. But no. They keep letting him do shit. Like idiots. That's why CBS is dumbasses. Nobody likes STD. But guess what? We're getting another season of that bullshit show. Kurtzman is an idiot. Get rid of Kurtzman and put someone in there who knows how to fucking write. Oh my God. Seriously. Anyways, that show's not going to do any good. It's just not going to happen. Now they're going after the younger generation because they're also thinking about doing a Star Trek Academy for, like, you know, the kids, like in Nickelodeon or Disney Channel or some shit, you know, so they can indoctrinate him to the Kurtzman timeline, or J.J. Kurtzman timeline, sorry, excuse me. J.J.'s another one they just need to get rid of because he's an idiot, don't know how to do shit. But yeah, it's gonna bomb. Nobody's gonna like it. I'm sorry, it's just not happening. Until you get rid of Kurtzman. Get rid of Kurtzman, everything will be fine. Alright. Alright, movieaholics, let's move on to your B-rated movie reviews. This week is Fantasy Week. got two fantasy films for you. The first one is a foreign film done from France and Italy. It was done in 1983. I couldn't find any box office numbers for it. But it's called Ironmaster. It stars Sam Pascal and Elvira Audrey. I'd never heard of him, but anyways, I think I think I've seen a Sam Pascal before, and a couple other foreign Italy films. But anyways, the movie's basically about a tribe who learns to forge iron for the first time. So it's set basically in the at the end of the Stone Age, almost prehistoric times. Basically, the story's not really all that bad. Yeah, it's a cheesy Italian flick, but that's all right. It wasn't so bad that I couldn't make it through it. Basically, you have two guys who are rivals in a tribe. You have a dark-haired one, and then you have a long blonde-haired one. The dark-haired guy, he's the son of the chieftain. The blonde-haired guy is the best warrior of the tribe. He has the favor of the chief. The chief likes him probably better than his son. He almost wishes his son was more like the warrior. The chief, at the beginning, when he's thinking about who he's going to give the title of chieftain to, because he's getting old. He wants to give it to his son, but at the same time, he knows he's not going to lead very well. So he's planning on giving the title to the warrior. The tribe shaman or wise man, the one who gives him advice, the chief advice, you know, he says, you gotta be sure you know what you're doing. You know, he is your son, he is the next in line, blah blah blah. You know, it kind of goes against tradition, blah blah blah. You know, but he tells him, you know, what am I supposed to do? He's an idiot, blah blah blah. He does dumb shit, which he does. Anyways, the son ends up killing the chief. The warrior sees the son kill the chief. He doesn't say anything at first. Then the wise man, you know, he says how the chief wanted to give it over to the warrior, and then the son attacks the wise man, kills him as well. And then the warrior points out that he's a murderer. He's killed both the chief and the wise man. And then he exiles him from the tribe. He says, you're banished from this tribe. Everyone agrees with, the whole tribe agrees with him, and the son takes off. Well, the son, there's a big volcanic explosion at that point in time. The son finds this iron bar, basically, from the volcano. He's that near the volcano. He finds a strip of iron formed into a bar, and he picks it up, and he's able to smash rocks with it and shit like that. So he's all like, oh, this is a badass weapon, you know. So anyway, he goes back to the tribe. Now at some point in time when he's traveling back to the tribe, his tribe, there's a woman that pops out of nowhere and tells him it's from the fire god, that he's going to be a great leader, blah blah blah. So boosting up his ego, and he grabs her and takes her with him, and he goes back to the tribe, and he convinces the tribe with his new weapon that they can conquer the other tribes, and make them give them their tribe food and tools and whatever else, riches, wealth, whatever. Instead of them doing it themselves, they'll make everybody else do it by conquering them, by making more of the weapons he has, this iron weapon. There's a big fight that ensues between the son and the warrior. The son cuts the warrior with the new weapon, and the warrior takes off. The son claims him banished, blah blah blah, from the tribe. Now, you have a sequence where the warrior is, meets this other woman who's the daughter of another chieftain from another tribe, which he goes with to that tribe. He goes to that tribe. On the way, they meet some Neanderthals that try to attack him and stuff. You'll see them regularly throughout the movie, from time to time, fighting other tribes. But anyways, they make it to this other tribe. Now, this other tribe, they're pacifists. They don't believe in fighting everybody, blah blah blah, because they've never needed to. While he's getting to know these people, the chieftain's son of the other tribe, they're making swords. They've learned how to forge the iron and make swords, and they've been going around and conquering the other villages, or other tribes, sorry. Anyways, the chieftain's son hears about the warrior. They go to kill him at this tribe, the tribe's village. Anyways, he's not there. There's a few of them that are not there. They don't get caught, but they do take over the village, this tribe's village. The chieftain's son, the one that makes swords. He puts some men there to run the village, and then he goes back home with his warriors. Well, the warrior tries to convince the chieftain that he needs to defend the village and blah blah blah, and they need to take it back, and the chieftain says, no, I'm never going to use a weapon, blah blah blah. Well, they end up killing him. The warrior and some of the warriors and the chieftain's daughter, they get back in the village and they retake the village. Then the warrior sends the woman from the beginning, who's like the chieftain's son's woman, sends her back and tells her to tell the chieftain's son that he's there and that they'll be waiting for him. Well, while she's doing that, the warrior figures out how to make bow and arrows. Just by circumstance, he just figures out how to do it. Basically, he invents the bow and arrow. Anyways, he teaches others how to use the bow and arrow, and then the chieftain's son shows up. They basically wipe out most of the warriors. And then the chieftain's son and the warrior, they have a fight with two of the swords instead of the bow and arrows. And the warrior ends up killing, of course, the chieftain's son. And that's the end of that, At the end, you see the warrior, he's getting rid of all the weapons and throwing them in the water or the lake that they're by, which is kind of dumb, but whatever. Anyways, that's the end of the movie. And apparently everyone lives happily ever after. Well, we know that's not how history records it. But anyways, it was an entertaining movie. It was alright. It wasn't bad. Of course, the acting was, mediocre. You didn't have the greatest of actors in it. I probably give the acting a good 3. It was decent enough that I could make it through it. Of course, there really isn't any special effects, but what little there is, you'd probably, it's probably like a 2 if best. It wasn't the greatest, the makeup and all that shit, you know what I'm saying? The story was actually, that really wasn't all that bad. I give the story a 4 because it was actually a pretty decent story. Overall, I give this movie a 3. It wasn't like super great, but it wasn't bad either. It was decent enough you could watch it. If you're into that kind of thing when it comes to fantasy movies, prehistoric times, I give it a thumbs up, thumbs down. Check it out if you want to. More power to you. Let's move on to the next one. The next fantasy movie was done in 1982. And it was actually a trilogy. There were 2 more sequels after this first one. But the 2 sequels are just absolutely rubbish. They're absolutely god-awful. And I do not recommend watching them. It's called The Beastmaster. Most of you, if you grew up in the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. It made about 14 million worldwide, so it didn't do the greatest, but it didn't do all that poor either for back then. A lot of people know of the Beastmaster, not everybody. Maybe you, maybe not. It actually started out as a series of books, but it kind of was like a sci-fi fantasy. It had to deal with some people traveling across the stars, and one of these worlds was the Beastmaster world. Anyways, the Beastmaster stars Mark Singer, Tanya Roberts, Rip Thorne, and John Amos is in this, so you have some pretty decent actors. Mark Singer, I really don't consider him all that great of an actor, but the rest of them are actually really decent actors. This one dealt, it kind of left out all the sci-fi stuff out of it, and it basically just focused on the fantasy aspect of the books. But anyways, you have this king and queen that have a son. This evil priest wants to control the kingdom, which is played by Rip Thorne, and he wants to kill all the babies because in the kingdom, because he has these 3 witches that tell him that, prophesize that the son of the king will come back to kill him. So he wants to kill the king's son, but a handmaiden got away with the king's son, so now he wants to kill all the babies in the kingdom, boys. Which, sounds a little bit familiar maybe in like Egypt, maybe biblical times, kind of thing. But anyways, the baby is almost killed by a witch. They say he's got to have this brand or whatever before they can kill him. So this witch brands his hand in the middle of this forest. And this guy shows up and catches her in the act and then kills her before she's able to kill the baby. He takes in the baby and then raises him, and he calls him Dar, which is Mark Sr. As Dar grows up, he realizes he's got some kind of power, communication with animals. Eventually, there's this group of warriors that's been going around conquering cities in the area. They call them the Juns or something like that. Anyways, they come in, they kill everyone in the village, in Dar's village, while he was plowing some fields way off in the hills. Him and the few men that were out there working, they eventually make it to the village, but everybody gets slaughtered. Dar actually gets hit in the head and knocked out, and his faithful dog, which gets shot by an arrow, pulls him out a ways from the village and dies. Dar then, decides he's going to find the Juns, seek revenge. One particular warrior, the leader of the group that attacked his village, he starts picking up animal companions on the way. The first animal companion he picks up along the way is at the very beginning after the village is destroyed, and it's the hawk. The hawk, he's able to do this a couple of times, but the hawk, and there's a tiger later on, he's able to see through the animal's eyes. Like he can see himself flying, but it's not him, it's the hawk. Besides being able to kind of communicate with them telepathically. Later on, he picks up two weasels, which he calls them his little thieves, because they pick up everything they see, and kind of like pack rats, they hide it away. And then he eventually picks up a black tiger, which looks like it's been spray painted. But yeah, he picks him up too. They eventually get to the city. He sees the evil priest throw this child into a fire for a sacrifice or whatever. He intends on stopping this priest because he meets this slave girl along the way just before the city, who happens to be cousin to the king. She's part of the group that's there when the evil priest throws his child into this fire pit. And he comes to find out, he realizes that she's to be sacrificed later on with several other women. He plans on freeing her and killing the priest. And he also hears the Juns are supposed to be eventually come to the city, so he wants to be there when they show up to kill their leader. Eventually runs across John Amos and this kid who he's Apparently it's his younger brother, but he doesn't realize it. He's the son of the king. It's the slave girl's actually his cousin. Sorry, my bad. But anyways, she's a niece to the king and a cousin to this boy. Which apparently, like I said, is his younger brother. He just doesn't realize it yet when he first meets him. And John Amos's character, you know, he's kind of like the right hand of the king or whatever. He's been taking care of the boy, and he finds something off about Dar. He just can't place his finger on it. But there's something definitely strange about him. But at the same time, you can tell he kind of warms up to him.
By witches.
But he's very cautious about it.
And it was to be destroyed.
Anyways, they get in a few trials along the way. He even meets some weird ass humanoid bat creatures, some type of tribe that worship the hawk. It's really weird. They decide to give him this pendant for a favor or some shit later on in the movie.
Born with the strength of a black tiger.
They all think the king is dead, but they eventually break into the temple of the city where the priest has been hiding out with his witches, and they find out that the king is still alive, and they decide that they're going to get him out. There's quite a few fight scenes with the witches,
the Beastmaster,
and some weird looking. It's like they take humans and turn them into zombies with some slug or something that goes in their brain. And they call them death soldiers or some death warriors or something like that. They basically just go berserk and attack anything they see. And they have glowing eyes. Anyways, they get in a fight with these things and witches or whatever. And also the priest, but they eventually get out, the king out. They decide they're going to take the city back, which they eventually do. They eventually kill the priest, blah, blah, blah. But then the Juns show up, and then this kind of mediocre battle happens
in the world of dungeons,
with the Juns. Dar calls this in his favor with the bad people when they come and help him out. And then he has there's this big old fight scene with him and the leader of the Juns, and he eventually ends up killing him and saves the day and blah, 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 blah. But he doesn't stay, even though John Amos, towards the end of the movie, he figures out that he's the oldest son, that he's actually the lost son of the king. And that he should be the one to rule. And he said, no, that's not for me. That's for the boy, my younger brother. He's the one growing up on that stuff. So he leaves it to them. He takes off to travel some more. And then the slave girl, whatever, the cousin to the king, she ends up following him, and they're she becomes his woman, and that's the end of the movie. As far as acting goes, I give it a 4. You had some really decent, very decent actors in this. Like I said, Mark Singer is just mediocre. So like I was saying, Mark Singer's not the best of actors. He's okay, but he had quite a bit of good acting supporters backing him up. The other actors were really good actors. As far as special effects go, I give it about a 2 or a 3, just because there was very limited special effects in this. It was more stunt work and stuff than it was special effects. And it wasn't terrible, but there was very limited, and it was, it passed for what it needed to be in the movie. So a 2 or 3, for that. as far as the story goes, you had a really good story. The story was really, really well written. I give it a 5 because it was just a really great story. And as far as the overall for the movie, I definitely give it a 4. Maybe a 3, but I'm going 4. Just because it's, I don't know, it was a good fantasy flick for what it was. And, you know, it wasn't like the greatest of a fantasy flick, but it was pretty well done for back then. And it wasn't all that bad at all. A lot of people tend to miss this gem. Mostly it's just your hardcore 80s fans or fantasy fans, hardcore fans that pretty much know about this flick. Not everybody does anymore. And it was a bit underrated for what it was, because it's a really good movie. So definitely a 5. I'd give it 2 thumbs up for sure. That's all I have for you this week for your B movies. Please leave suggestions down below in the comments. If you have anything that you think I might have missed as far as underrated classic movies, regardless if they're fantasy or not, please leave your suggestions down in the comments, and I will get to them as soon as I can and give you a review on them. Anyways, everyone, that's all I have for you this time. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about what I've said in this video. Do you agree or disagree, and why? I told you you'd be told the truth, and you've just been told.